The Mandela Catalogue is a series made by Alex Keister and is a part of the analog horror genre. This genre originated in the early 2010s with internet videos mostly on YouTube. It usually falls along the lines of horror fiction with a found footage type of vibe. Something that could be related to this, if you've never heard of it, is Five Nights at Freddy's with its original game art style and demeanor being similar to what you think an old Chuck E. Cheese would be like. With this, I'm going to be making a series breaking down aspects of each video in the Mandela Catalogue, and eventually making a final part that has a timeline and wraps up any loose ends. But without wasting any more time with the introduction, here's the first part of the series, starting with the Mandela Catalogue Volume 1. The video starts with an emergency broadcast about an unforeseen threat. There is patriotic music playing in the background, with a text-to-speech offbeat voice speaking over visuals of how to handle the threat. The hostile organism is referred to as an alternate. The video instructs the viewer to stay home, lock all entrances, and arm themselves. It then delves into how to identify one of them with physical characteristics being identical to you and just biologically impossible characteristics. The video reiterates that avoidance is the best way to handle this organism, however self-defense is approved. As stated by the video, when in contact with an alternate, they will use psychological warfare to capture their victims, further pushing the avoidance of alternates. Starting off the video with the specific brand of patriotic music and with the information known from the first video on the channel, being overthrown, puts the setting of these events in America, where a national threat is being broadcasted. This could be akin to the development of the emergency broadcast system in 1963 and 1971 with the Cold War era nuclear fears. Cohen L. Rad was developed for radios in 1951, yet in 1971 a broadcast came over stations with the code word hatefulness, signaling that this was the real deal, but eventually was found to be a misinput and the result of human error. A more recent example could be the alert system put in place after 9/11, with green, blue, yellow, orange, and red, all ranking in severity. Regardless, the basic principles of keeping an individual safe with locking doors and arming yourself is present as seen in content of this nature. With the description of alternates, we're able to distinctly point out one in every circumstance, but it's unsettling how a being like this came to be or the possible existence of one in the first place. The use of psychological warfare makes them a formidable foe. With the video overthrown, we could see some sort of alternate creature mask itself as a divine being to prey on those within its religion. We could see that alternates have the need to copy humans and deceive them into suicide, only to potentially take their place in society to lure more victims. The way the broadcast reiterates excessively that avoidance is the best way to handle alternates, use of long-range firearms is put as a secondary option. However, what would a firearm do in the presence of these organisms that can, as far as we know, freely change their appearance to mimic humans? Alternates have biological impossibilities, so who's to say it can't easily subdue an individual and subject them to mental torment? At a minute and 13 seconds in, the tape cuts to an explanation for what to do in an alternate encounter using the think principle. T. Tell an authority figure about your encounter. H. Hinder the alternate's movements. I. Identify the class type. N. Neutralize the alternate if it's safe to do so. And then the last slide, with the variable K, tells the viewer to engage in the act of self-neutralization, followed by, quote, there's not enough room for the two of us, before quickly cutting to K, know your place in reality. The tape cuts once again with some distorted music and is now instructing the viewer on the types of alternates. Type 1, Doppelganger. Images of nearly identical people are put on screen with a tape cut instantly to Type 3. More images appear on screen in a disturbing manner. The music is cut for a grainy noise distortion while images flick through. In this section of the video, it seems to be a what-if scenario for alternate encounters with protocols and types of alternates listed out. The alternate encounter explanation video being cut to something unnatural during the K variable calls for some sort of explanation. Considering what we know about alternates thus far and their use of psychological methods to capture prey, broadcasting a sense of displacement and the victim's own sense of reality towards a wide range of individuals through this, taking out as many people as they can in an easy way. It could be assumed that this is a part of the emergency broadcast playing earlier, however the second cut involving the types of alternates is also tampered with. The most prominent scene missing from this is the removal of the second type of alternates. The footage has definitely been tampered with, but the question is, was it by a human or not? It can be found that humans are negatively affected by alternates, meaning that the more likely answer is alternate interference. Another thing that could have this tape be seen as part of a classified informational or training video are the graphic depictions of alternates. It is necessary for the public to know information about a hostile organism rampant in their daily lives. Due to the immediate nature of the threat, information is as valuable as protection, which could be the cause for types of alternates to be shared knowledge. The tape is stopped and assumed to be a new tape with an interview between victim 1 and 2 revealed to be as Mark Heathcliff and Caesar Torres. It seems to be a recorded call with a visible transcript. Caesar is asking Mark to check around the house due to his mother's unconsciousness and assertion of seeing something. At a minute and at 4 minutes and 9 seconds, the tape distorts, with Caesar's face being the only one on screen gliding upwards, followed by a black and white scale of said face smiling unnaturally. This lasts until 4 minutes and 18 seconds, where the feed is back to normal. This can be directly linked to the Think Principle video with the distortion, meaning that the glitching centered around Caesar could paint him as an alternate deceiving Mark. The tape shows footage of Mark driving to the house and arriving in front of the garage. He audibly gets out and enters the home, flipping through multiple cameras until a loud bang is heard, going back to the dark hallway. At 3:31 a.m., motion detection camera flips through, and at 6:14, which seems to be an image of the backyard, there is a shadow over a shed. At 6:32, the shadow is no longer visible. 6:38, the door is now open at the end of the hallway, possibly being a back door. 5:34 a.m. had a sound increase. A woman is heard being distressed and exclaims, quote, "Get away from me." The footage cuts to the interview between Mark and Caesar, with Caesar's face growing in size, distorting, then inverting the screen. It cuts to black with a low tone playing over the pupils of Caesar's face remaining. This is all footage of what happened before Mark's arrival. The voice of the woman screaming is Caesar's mother. This can be deduced from the screen cutting back to a distorted version of Caesar's face, and the unsettling nature of the scene. The theory that Caesar is an alternate has a hole here due to his mother asking, quote, "Who are you?" to the individual attacking her. This could be chalked up to his mother noticing the differences between the alternate and her son, thus causing the outburst. Since alternates have the ability to change their form, it's possible that it morphed as a way to cause her distress, leading to her unconsciousness. However, it could be a completely different being in its entirety, but this seems unlikely due to the many cues of this alternate in fact mimicking Caesar. This raises another question. Caesar stated that his mother was unconscious during the call, while he could be lying, but does this mean that she has turned in a way? It is assumed alternates mimic their victims and those close to them, so an alternate has mimicked Caesar to attack his mother and Mark. At 7 minutes and 10 seconds into the video, Mark is followed home by what can be assumed to be an alternate. The date and time are read as 10:30 p.m. on September 13th, 1992. The alternate calls for Mark as he hides in his bedroom, with it being just outside the door. There is a clear glitching and inhuman sounds coming from the claims it makes. Its voice is uncanny. It repeats that it has a gift, showing one of the ways that an alternate can manipulate its victims. Days pass. It is now September 15th. Mark states that nobody has came for him. You can sense his desperation. At 7 minutes and 53 seconds in, the sound of the door opening with an almost purely black screen is visible. Manic laughing can be heard that increases in volume. Mark exclaims a phrase and a gunshot is heard, followed by a red screen. End quote, "Uh-oh, bad decision, Mark," end quote, is displayed across the screen. It cuts back to the original tape with the date still being September 15th, but now at 10:59 p.m. There's a heavily rapid footsteps, then a close-up of a human-like face with a purple tone. It cuts to black, then an image of what can be assumed to be the cadaver of Mark Heathcliff, sprawled on a bed with a pistol in his right hand and a black box over his face. The next portion of the video focuses on what happens after Mark checks the cameras and leaves Caesar's house. The date can be learned as being set in 1992. The alternate's dialect and scare tactics suggest differing levels of intelligence throughout the species. Caesar's demeanor and heightened sense of deceit is apparent when Mark's still believing it was his friend until his demise with the quote, "It followed me home, Caesar." But the alternate now attacking Mark is not very persuasive and has an audibly heard distortion in its voice. Days pass, and it's shown how these organisms kill their victims. Alternates will wait days, tormenting their victims until the prey's mind turns to desperation. At the timestamp, 7 minutes and 53 seconds, the events that take place suggest multiple outcomes. My first theory is that Mark opened the door in an attempt to defend himself from the alternate, however, ended up taking his own life in an attempt to remain in control of his fate. A second theory could be that the alternate opened the door and overpowered Mark, still resulting in the same outcome. The first theory is heavily supported with the scene at the end, featuring Mark on the bed in a believable position. A red screen with, quote, "Uh-oh, bad decision Mark," end quote, appearing shortly after the gunshot suggests further alternate interference with video equipment, meaning that they can operate human technology. After that scene, there was a close-up view of the purple-faced man breathing heavily into the camera. Considering the rapid footsteps and breathing are still heard in the footage, this most likely isn't Mark and is the alternate. The original image of the purple man is actually part of another rabbit hole of true crime mystery, being of the murderer Derek Toddley and its manipulation of his face. However, who this alternate is this far into the story is unknown. The facial features don't match with Caesar, so we can assume that this is the one who possibly attacked Caesar's mother. Another important thing to note is the black box over Mark's face after his demise. The same box was seen in the video overthrown over the face of the imposter angel. This could mean that either the image was too graphic for the tape, or Mark is now going to be copied by an alternate. A warning screen is displayed at 9 minutes and 16 seconds with an overall meaning of viewing this tape is illegal and to discard the tape immediately. It's Mandela County police training video. There's a voiceover with a transcript running on screen to detail emergencies and how to properly respond to them, all running over footage of each scenario. Shortly after, the screen cuts to blue with a tape error, then back to the training video at 10 minutes and 34 seconds. At 10 minutes and 39 seconds, encounter is displayed on the screen, followed by what to do in an alternate encounter. The instructions are disturbing, with the example of not to help a caller with an alternate report, yet to assure them that help is on the way, and, quote, "Do not speak too much, you might accidentally reveal your fear," end quote. Immediately after this, "nothing is worth the risk," is repeated 3 times before the tape cuts to a toddler stress assessment video. Overall, it's a pretty standard police training video with a seemingly edited part added onto it, along with the alternate interference. The location of the events happening in the story are set in Mandela County. The main takeaway from this section is that authorities can't, or don't, handle this level of anomaly. Due to the nature in which alternates mimic their victims, talking too much, revealing personal secrets, and giving false hope to callers is the only way to truly preserve the greater good of the police force over the public. "Nothing is worth the risk" being repeated could be seen as alternate interference or tape malfunction, as demonstrated throughout the entirety of this found footage. The problem has gotten so widespread that there is a need to have an assessment video for children as well. The feed is in the opposite format of what the previous videos have been, being in black and white text. The point of the viewing is to subject your child to various audio files and record each response. Section 1 plays birds chirping, then babies laughing, then cows mooing, while every other audio playback had record response at the end. The cow had silence and then text appearing on the screen. The tape then cuts to a slideshow, similar to like a film strip projector, of a child's story drawn out labeled "The Scary Night" by Mark, age 4, going to the school, Mandela Elementary, grade 4K. It details the child's father not checking under his bed, Mark then going to his mother's room, yet was scared by the knocking on the door. Walking past the dimly lit room by the stairs, he was met with a man in the corner. A crudely drawn picture of the man is shown, and Mark states he fell asleep, ending the story. This section of the assessment video revolving around Mark could be Mark Heathcliff, but no last name is provided. His story, though short in length, raises a few questions, especially concerning the abrupt ending of him falling asleep. If this is Mark Heathcliff, it could mean that alternates don't attack children but possibly use them as a lure, which could be supported by the existence of the toddler assessment tape initially. Or, on a more sinister note, alternates might stalk their victims into maturity, further pushing the uncanny valley narrative. If it isn't Mark Heathcliff, then the statement of alternates not attacking children could further be proved with the story's ending. The tape seemingly cuts back to the toddler assessment video and begins with section 2. There's a dinging prompt met by a cat, then a family of three, a blue balloon, then the prompt sound goes lower in pitch, revealing a dark area near a staircase. The feed cuts to white with a knocking audio. An image of a disturbing human-like creature appears with, quote, an intruder. The assessment is complete and the viewer is told to contact their advisor if anything abnormal happened. The assessment video continues with a connection to the story this time, with the staircase that was described in Mark's story. Attempting to tie this back to the alternate that attacked Mark Heathcliff is somewhat difficult considering that their proportions are different with the face structure as well. However, by looking at the merch website and posters, you're able to see that, in fact, the intruder does have the same face that the alternate that attacked Mark had. In Volume 1 of the Mandela Catalogue, we learn the date and setting of the story and some of the characters involved. Along with this, we can see a more general approach from law enforcement and how most authorities are expected to act in alternate scenarios. The different types of alternates, along with their unique mimicry, makes them such a disturbance to the public that everyone has to take matters into their own hands to ensure their own survival. Though the video showed a way to defend yourself from alternates, it is heavily implied to not work, with avoidance being the best method. So will people find ways to stop alternates? What more can we learn from them? And will there be more victims? This is all something we'll have to learn with new videos, and I hope you enjoyed this one as a short little analytical video. And if you like this, drop a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.